Hi, I'm Maunette Loeks with the Star-Herald, and I'm sitting down with a couple of visitors for this week's table talk. I'm sitting down with Missi Iasillo. She's with CASA of Scottsbluff County, and we're joined by Terri Robinson with Saint Francis Ministries. Missi and Terri, you guys are here to visit with us about a new campaign that's underway. Can one of you tell us about that?
Sure, I'd love to. We have started a campaign called They Are Worthy, and it's a foster family CASA volunteer drive. And basically, we have found ourselves in a position the past several months that when children are removed from their homes through no fault of their own, from abuse and neglect of their parents, and then need to go to a foster family, there isn't any local foster families to send them to. So they are being sent 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours away, which does a few things. One, we can't appoint a CASA volunteer to their case to be an advocate for them. And two, they have to leave their schools, they have to leave their friends, they lose their supports that they may have already had in place for them in their lives. And so, and it also, when it comes to visitation, those parents aren't able to visit them as frequently. And it's just one or the other is going to have to travel to see their parents. So that affects reunification efforts. And so, like a parent, instead of being able to be working on maybe a substance abuse treatment plan or counseling or something like that, they're going to be spending that time traveling. And so it's going to, at best, make that reunification process even longer if it doesn't hinder it completely. So I just know people in our area are super generous, and so I just figured if the need was out there, we could get more CASA volunteers and more foster parents, and so we teamed up to make this happen.
And you're the volunteer coordinator with CASA, and so you were noting, and when we visited before we started filming, that there's a big need for foster parents in the area. Can you talk about some of the numbers that CASA has been seeing?
Of 102 the past year, only 54 stayed in Scottsbluff County. So that's just about half.
Right.
And so that means half of the kids don't get a CASA volunteer. So they don't have that one person that gets to advocate for them through the entire process in trying to reach permanency, whatever that may look like to them, reunification or adoption or whatever. And so, I mean, that's a high number. And I just think if people know, you always hear people say, well, I always kind of thought about it.
Right.
But maybe the people that are on the fence that know that we need them, it's their time to step up.
Right. So, Terri, you're familiar with what's the process for a person if they are interested in becoming a foster parent?
Well, if a person is interested, they can just contact us or the Nebraska Foster Adoptive Parent Association inquiry line. And once someone is interested, they just make application, fill out some paperwork, initial background check, and then training. They'll go through a training process, either 7 or 10 weeks, depending on the platform that we use. And during the training, they learn all about what it means to be a foster parent, what foster children coming in, the obstacles that they face, and then they make that decision if they would like to continue become a licensed foster parent, and we go from there.
And what kind of needs are there for foster parents? Are there specific age groups that you guys are needing to more foster parents to serve in? What's some of the needs that agencies are seeing in our state?
There's a need for foster parents for all ages. Of course, foster children range in age from infant to 19. They age out at 19. But there's a great need for homes that are willing to take sibling groups and willing to take the older children, especially teens. There's a huge need for homes that will take teens.
And before we started, you were talking about how you had experience as a foster parent and foster parent of teens. So can you tell us
Yes.
Maybe a little bit about your experience?
Sure. My husband and I, we first became licensed in 1999. And over the years, we fostered 59 children. And about the last 4.5 years, we had all teens in
Wow.
the house. And I'm telling you, they're just children.
Uh-huh.
They just want to belong, they just want to be part of a family, so.
59 children, that's a lot.
It was
Wow.
such a great experience.
Yeah, and one thing is, being a foster parent, it's not going to be, sometimes a foster care placement is a short placement, sometimes it may be longer term.
Yes, there is no set time frame how long a child is in care. Actually, I was just looking at statistics yesterday, and from the Foster Care Review Office, and the average length of stay was about 564 days
Oh, wow.
for a foster child. But again, there's no set. It just depends
Right.
on the way the case goes, the parents stepping up and working the case plan and getting their children back.
So can foster care parents, can they choose to be a short term or long term, or how does that process kind of work?
Sure, you can be a home that takes just the short-term emergency placements while they're looking for a permanent foster home. Permanent meaning the more long-term.
Or you could do respite.
Yes. Or if you don't want to commit to being a foster parent, you can certainly step up and be a respite provider for foster parents.
Okay, so that might be somebody if they're kind of
Going
trying
away for the weekend or something.
explore options to also still be involved in providing
Right,
foster
it's
care.
a respite provider. It's a great way to get your feet wet
Yeah,
and to see if this is for you. If it's,
and it's not an overnight process to become a foster care parent, however.
It is not an overnight process. It takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to complete the entire process from the day of inquiry to getting fully licensed.
So,
So.
and you guys
it
talked
just
about,
takes a process.
sorry
I'm
to
sorry,
interrupt.
my mask
That's
keeps
okay.
slipping, so.
And you talked, you don't have to be a perfect person to be a foster parent, so,
Definitely.
No, there are no perfect parents. You don't have to have experience as a parent. You, singles, we welcome singles, married. All you have to do is be willing to open up your heart and your home to a child in need.
great. And then, Missy, during this time, you guys are also recruiting for CASA volunteers as well.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about CASA and what that process is to become a volunteer.
To become a volunteer, we have a training process as well. We usually meet once a week for 5 to 6 weeks, depending how long it takes us to get it done. But after that, the time commitment is probably 5 to 10 hours on the outside per month. So that time commitment is not nearly as much. But what you do is you get to know the kids that you're assigned to. You can advocate things for them that have nothing to do with the court case, They may need a winter coat and you can make sure they get that. They may want to be in a sport, so you can try and advocate for them and make sure they get football shoes or whatever be the case. I mean, there's a lot of things that kids go through that slip through the cracks if nobody's really looking out for their needs. So that's what a CASA volunteer does. They also then eventually write a report to the judge about what we think is in their best interest, and including what they want, which may not always be the same thing,
Right.
but that's important too for a judge to know that. So we're just an extra set of eyes with no legal interest in it other than just looking out for their best interest to let the judge know what we think is best.
And CASAs are often referred to as the voice of the children.
The voice of the child.
Yes.
So that they will meet one-on-one when able, because I know that the pandemic has had some effect on that.
They meet with the child, once, twice, 3 times a month. You may go to watch their games if they're involved in something. And you just get to know them. You're just that person for them, and you're going to be the one person through the whole case that gets to get to be there for them. Because caseworkers change, sometimes foster families change. It depends. And so you're that one person that gets to stick with them the whole time, and you can stay with them after that, after their case is closed, if you want to, if that works out that way. But it's just a great opportunity to be there for a kid.
And you might have already said, but there is a training that's offered for CASA volunteers, and how long is that training? And you guys do have another training coming up?
We have a training coming up in February, at the end of February, but we have several throughout the year, just depending on when they come up. And it's usually, we usually meet once a week for about 6 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And the training is actually just really sort of eye-opening as far as, you know, how do kids get to that position. You know, you learn about the court system and that part of it. But a lot of it is just sort of, you know, we all come to the table with different experiences, and so it's just sort of a soul-searching thing, and you learn the reasons that people end up where they're at, where they're losing their kids.
And you noted that this idea for a campaign came while you were sitting in a courtroom?
Yeah, we had been to several pre-hearing conferences, which is the first hearing when you're just finding out the information about why a child has been removed. And literally I was like 3 or 4 in a row, and I was like, oh, we have a perfect person for this case. And, oh, they're placed in Sydney. They're placed in Chadron. They were placed in Alliance. They're all placed outside of our county. And, you know, we have volunteers, and so it's a lot to ask somebody to drive to spend their whole day instead of, you know, the hour that it usually would take to meet a kid. So we just really can't put a volunteer on those cases. So I was just like, this is frustrating me.
Right.
We need more foster kids, so foster
homes.
And so we just reached out and started the process.
And I was commenting before this, I wasn't aware that about, you know, half of our foster care children are being placed outside of Scottsbluff County. So that's probably going to be eye-opening, if it's eye-opening for me, for others in the community as well.
When a child is removed from their home, the first goal is to find a family member.
Right.
I mean, that's ideal. Or kinship, which just means they're familiar with that person, you know, whether it's somebody that they know. So those are your first 2 options, and those are the best options for the kids. But that doesn't always happen.
Right.
And so sometimes they need to find a place for them. And so you have to keep looking outside the circle until you find somebody.
Yeah, but the more parents that we have of foster parents available in the area, the less likely that is to happen, if they're going to be transferred outside of the community that they call home.
That's right.
Right. Okay. So what are some of the ways, first, that people can volunteer or get more information about becoming a foster parent?
Well, there's several numbers that they can call. There's the 800 number for Saint Francis Ministries.
Okay.
And then there's also the Nebraska Foster Adoptive Parent Association, which covers it statewide also and does the inquiries, initial inquiries for foster care. Or Guardian Light is the other foster care agency here in Scottsbluff.
Okay, and I will put all these numbers up
and if you go
on the slide as well.
If you go to Facebook and look up They Are Worthy, you'll find our event, and all those numbers are on there as well.
Right. And so what are some of the ways during this campaign that you guys are hoping to reach out and spread the word?
Well, obviously, we're here.
Right.
And so, you know, news media associations, Facebook event. On the 21st of January, Guardian Light Family Services is doing an online Facebook Live question and answer thing. So that will be a great way for somebody just to listen in, and even if you're not sure, you can listen in and ask some questions. And so that will be one thing that we're going to have as well.
That sounds like a great opportunity. And then for CASA, can you tell us how people can get a hold of you to volunteer to be a CASA?
Absolutely. They can go on the Facebook page, which is CASA of Scottsbluff County. You can find everything you need there. Or you can call me at 308-225-2527, and I'll answer any questions.
And you guys have a regular need for volunteers for CASA, so there's not a limit that you will hit.
There will never be a limit. We'll always need some, and you know, people do it for a while, and you know, they have to resign for health reasons, or they move, or you know, just regular volunteer reasons, and so we're always looking for more.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you guys both for joining us today and telling us a little bit about your campaign. I'm Maunette Loeks with the Star-Herald, and again, thank you to Terri and to Missi for joining us. If you want any information about what we've talked about today, there will be more on starherald.com. Thank you again.